Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really vast subject, the history of Maharashtra, spanning over 7 millennia.
Quite a timeline, yeah. From the earliest human traces right up to its role today as, well, an economic and cultural hub for India.
Exactly. And we've got so much to draw on archaeology, empires rising and falling, cultural mixing, the whole colonial period, modern changes.
A real tapestry.
It is. So our mission really is to pull out the most fascinating, the most important threads from that tapestry for you.
And you almost have to start with the land itself, don't you? The geology.
The Deccan Traps, that huge volcanic plateau.
Precisely. It's not just scenery. That volcanic activity, it created this unique basalt soil, that influenced farming for thousands of years.
Right. Determine what crops they could even grow.
Yeah, geological legacy that's still relevant. It really set the stage.
Okay, so let's picture those earliest people. Paleolithic era, maybe 5000 BCE, probably much earlier even.
Living along the rivers of
Godavari, Krishna, and Bhima.
Using the local stone, quartzite, basalt.
For those tools we find. The Acheulian hand axes, the cleavers. Found near
Gangwadi and Nivasa.
Those are the ones. It's amazing to think about those first adaptations to the landscape.
And it wasn't straightforward. You mentioned the studies at places like
Patne and Koregaon.
Ah, the stratigraphy, yes. Reading the layers. You see human occupation, the layers of volcanic ash, then more occupation.
wow, like reading chapters of survival.
It paints a picture of constant adaptation. Dealing with these big environmental shifts, volcanic events. It shaped where and how they could live.
Okay, let's jump forward a bit. Mesolithic period, maybe 10,000 to 4,000 BCE. Things start to change.
We see a shift, yeah, towards maybe semi-sedentary life. The clues are these tiny stone tools, microliths.
And the rock art.
In the Konkan Caves, Susarod and Koloshi.
That's it. Really captivating stuff. It gives us this rare glimpse into their symbolic world. Communal rituals, animals.
Because it's moving beyond just basic survival tools.
It seems so. We're seeing hints of something more complex, shared cultural practices maybe, beliefs, social structures perhaps. It's fascinating.
Then, Neolithic, around 3000 BCE.
Nashik and Kolhapur areas.
This is big, right? Agriculture.
Huge turning point. The beginning of farming. They're growing millet, keeping cattle.
And making different tools, like saddle corns for grinding grain.
Exactly. And we find pit dwellings.
Like in Daimabad.
Real evidence of early farming settlements taking root.
That shift to agriculture, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Monumental. It allows for stability, larger communities, new technologies. It really paves the way for more complex societies down the line. Those corns are such a solid reminder of that change.
Which leads us nicely into what some call the true dawn of urbanization here, the Jorwe culture, roughly 1300 to 700 BCE.
That's the period. And sites like
Inamgaon and Daimabad.
really show this leap. We're talking planned layouts, mud brick houses.
Granaries even, and specific zones for crafts.
Yes. Real organization. Specialization. You look at Inamgaon, those oval houses with hearths, storage pits. It suggests something like clan-based groups, a more structured community life.
And the pottery, that distinctive black-on-red pottery.
Ah, yes. With the geometric patterns, the animal figures.
It's not just decoration, though, is it? It tells us about connections.
Absolutely. It points to trade links, definitely with Malwa, probably down into Karnataka as well. It hints at cultural exchange, maybe movement of people or ideas, early connections forming.
And what else do we know about their life from Daimabad?
Well, archaeobotany, the study of ancient plants, tells us they had barley, lentils, even grapes. And faunal remains, animal bones, suggest rituals, possibly cattle sacrifices.
So a much richer picture emerges. Diet, ritual, trade.
A developing society, for sure.
Okay, moving forward again. Around 600 BCE, Maharashtra becomes part of.
Ashmaka Janapada.
What was that exactly?
Janapada was basically one of the major kingdoms or territories in ancient India. So Maharashtra gets drawn into that wider political map.
And then comes a really big player, the Mauryan Empire, 322 to 185 BCE.
Right, they integrate the region. And we have direct evidence of Emperor Ashoka's edicts promoting his philosophy.
Dharma found at Sopara and Nashik.
That Mauryan influence must have been significant. Centralized administration, spread of ideas.
Crucial, yes. And it fostered the spread of Buddhism. We see the start of those amazing rock-cut viharas, the monasteries, like at Karla and Baja.
Not just religious sites, but art and learning centers too, with inscriptions.
Exactly. Early Prakrit inscriptions. They're invaluable historical sources.
Which brings us to a dynasty that really puts the region on the map. The Satavahanas. Around 230 BCE to 220 CE.
Definite high point. Regional power, prosperity. Their capital was Pradishtana, modern Python.
And they were big on trade, especially maritime trade.
Hugely important. Ports like Colonial connected them to the Roman world. Think about the wealth, the ideas flowing in.
It makes you think about Mumbai's role today, doesn't it? That long history of being a trade gateway.
It really does. The Satavahanas forged a strong regional identity. You look at rulers like
Gautamiputra Satakarni.
around the 1st century CE.
He expanded the empire quite a bit.
Malwa down to Karnataka, yeah. The Nasik Prashasti, that inscription calls him the destroyer of
Sakas and Yavanas.
showing their military clout.
And their coins. I've seen images, ships, lotus flowers.
Visual symbols of their economic strength, their maritime focus, and their culture.
And weren't there inscriptions mentioning a queen? Nyanaka?
Yes, the Nanagat inscriptions, they give us these fascinating details about her administrative role, maybe reforms she implemented.
It's great to get those glimpses of women in power back then. Challenges the usual narrative.
It really does. Highlights their important roles in governance and royal life.
Okay, after the Satavahanas, we get the Vakatakas. Maybe 250 to 525 CE. What are they best known for?
Their strong patronage of Mahayana Buddhism.
Mahayana. That's the branch focusing on the Bodhisattva path, helping others reach enlightenment.
That's the one. And of course, the most famous legacy of the Vakataka era is
Ajanta, the caves, the frescoes.
absolutely stunning. UNESCO World Heritage Site, and rightly so. An incredible visual record of that Buddhist world.
And other monasteries too, like near Aurangabad.
Yes,
Ghatotkacha Vihara.
these were important centers for theological discussion, and their influence actually spread, across Southeast Asia through art and architecture.
Wow. Okay, so now we're shifting into the medieval period, roughly 600 to 1600 CE. You called this a crossroads of cultures.
Very much so. You see different powers, different influences overlapping and interacting. First, maybe the Badami Chalukyas, 6th to 8th centuries.
And Elephanta Caves, that Trimurti sculpture.
A fantastic example. It blends Shaiva elements related to Shiva and Vaishnava elements related to Vishnu.
So religious syncretism, different traditions mixing.
Exactly. It suggests a dynamic period of exchange, maybe tolerance, maybe integration of different beliefs.
Then the Rashtrakutas, 8th to 10th centuries, and they're responsible for Ellora, specifically the Kailasa temple.
First to 8, yes,
Yeah.
the Kailasa temple is just mind-blowing. Carving an entire temple complex from a single chunk of basalt cliff.
It's hard to even picture the effort. What drove that? Religious devotion, a statement of power.
Probably both. It's an engineering marvel, no doubt, showcasing the Rashtrakuta Empire's power, resources, and their deep religious commitment.
And it wasn't just about building, right? There was intellectual life too.
Definitely. Scholars like Adi Shankaracharya were debating philosophy in places like Pithan, and rulers like Amogavarsha, his work
Kavi Raja Marga.
helped standardize literary traditions in
Kannada Marathi.
Okay, fast forward a bit. The Suna Yadavas, late 12th to early 14th century.
they established their base at
Devagiri, later Daulatabad.
known for fortifying it.
And that
Hemadpanti.
temple style, very distinctive.
Yes, intricate work, but maybe their most lasting cultural impact comes from literature.
Jananeshwar's Bhavarta Dapika.
Around 1290.
Exactly. A commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, but crucially, written in Marathi.
Making it accessible to ordinary people, not just scholars who knew Sanskrit.
Precisely. It democratized spiritual knowledge. He blended Advaita Vedanta philosophy, that idea of oneness, with the emotion of
Bhakti.
devotional poetry. It was foundational for a distinct Marathi cultural and spiritual identity.
A huge moment for the language and the culture, but the Yadavas didn't last.
No, their power collapsed after Aladdin Khalji invaded from the north in 1296. That invasion really shifted the political landscape again.
Opening the door for the Bahmani Sultanate.
And later, the successor sultanates like the Nizam Shahis of Ahmadnagar and the Adil Shahis of Bijapur.
We see that blending again, right? Persian influences meeting Deccani styles.
Very clearly. In architecture, think of the Farabag Palace in Ahmadnagar or the Golgumbaz in Bijapur with its whispering gallery.
And in learning to Mahmud Gawan's Madrasa in Bidar.
Was a major center for astronomy medicine.
It really reinforces that crossroads idea. Lots of different streams feeding into the culture.
A very rich period culturally, despite the political fragmentation.
Okay, now we hit a really defining era for Maharashtra. The Maratha era, starting around 1600, and one figure looms large.
Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
Absolutely pivotal. His rise, the way he forged the Maratha Confederacy.
Using innovative tactics, guerrilla warfare, and focusing on naval power too.
Yes, his strategies were remarkable. He challenged Mughal dominance head-on. And that formal coronation,
Rajyabhishek at Raigad in 1674.
Establishing Hindavi Swaraja, self-rule.
a powerful concept. It wasn't just military. He was cultivating a distinct Maratha identity language, religion, regional pride.
That focus on a navy seems really forward-thinking, too, recognizing the European threat.
It was strategic, definitely. Protecting trade, asserting sovereignty along the coast. His military engineering in the forts Sinhagad, Pratapgad is legendary, and his administration, the Ashtapradhan Council of Ministers.
He laid the groundwork for a proper kingdom.
A robust, organized state, yes.
After Shivaji Maharaj, power shifts to the Peshwas.
From around 1713, yes. They become the de facto rulers,
Based in Pune.
and they oversaw a massive expansion of Maratha influence.
Right, Bajirao reaching Delhi in 1737, that shows their peak.
A clear sign of their power across the subcontinent.
Pune.
Became a major cultural and political center.
But it didn't last indefinitely.
No. Internal conflicts, succession struggles, and increasing pressure from the British. It weakened the Confederacy,
Leading to the Anglo-Maratha Wars.
culminating in the Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817-1818. And that marked the end of Maratha independence.
And the beginning of direct British colonial rule, 1818 to 1947. What were the major impacts?
Well, economically, British land revenue systems like the Riordan system caused significant disruption, led to hardship for farmers, events like the Deccan riots in 1875.
But adversity also sparks change, right? Social reform movement.
Absolutely critical during this period. Figures like
Tira Phule founded the Satyashodhak Samaj.
founded in 1873.
What was their main focus? Challenging the social order.
Challenging caste discrimination, advocating for education, especially for women and lower castes, pushing for things like widow remarriage, really groundbreaking work against deeply entrenched inequalities.
And alongside social reform, a growing sense of linguistic identity.
Yes, very much so. Movements pushing for recognition.
Based on the Marathi language and culture. Events like the Nagpur Flag Satyagraha.
In 1923 are part of this growing assertion.
You also have figures using cultural symbols like
Lokmanya Tilak at the Ganesh Utsav in Pune and his newspaper Kesari.
Using cultural events and the press to build regional pride and mobilize people for the nationalist cause.
And we absolutely have to mention Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, his work, like Annihilation of Caste.
Hugely influential, a powerful critique of the caste system, demanding social justice. His ideas profoundly shaped not just Maharashtra, but the entire independence movement and the Indian Constitution itself.
So all these strands, social reform, linguistic identity, the freedom struggle, they all feed into the post-independence era.
They do, and they lead directly to that major reorganization in 1960, the bifurcation of Bombay State.
Creating modern Maharashtra, along with Gujarat, based largely on linguistic lines.
Fulfilling that long-standing demand for a unified Marathi-speaking state, a really significant moment.
Which brings us to post-independence Maharashtra, 1960 to now. What are the key developments? Industrial growth.
Definitely a major focus. The establishment of the MIDC Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation in '61 was key to driving growth, especially around Mumbai. And
Pune.
And agriculture, the Green Revolution.
happened in the 70s. It boosted food production significantly, which was vital. But it also, highlighted issues like water usage, reliance on chemicals, vulnerabilities in the system.
And then 1991, economic liberalization across India. How did that impact Maharashtra?
Mumbai in particular really took off as a global financial center. Major transformation in the economy.
But it's not all smooth sailing, is it? There are ongoing challenges.
Of course, rapid urbanization brings its own pressures. Water scarcity is a recurring serious issue. Social inequalities persist. These are complex problems the state is still grappling with.
Yet its cultural weight remains immense. Ajanta Ellora, CST station in Mumbai, UNESCO sites.
Undeniable. The cultural legacy is incredibly rich and visible.
So wrapping this up, looking back over this vast expanse of time, what's the main takeaway for you?
For me, it's that story of continuous evolution, resilience, innovation. You see how geography, culture, human action, they all interact constantly.
From those first river valley settlements to today's tech ambitions.
It's an incredible journey. And that past the empires, the reformers, the revolutionaries, it's not just history. It actively shapes the present and the future.
Understanding that deep history gives context to everything happening now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It helps us understand the dynamics, the challenges, the potential of Maharashtra today, both within India and increasingly on the world stage.
And there's still more to learn, right? You mentioned gaps like in Konkan prehistory and preserving what we have.
Definitely. Continued research is vital, and digitizing archives, making sure this incredible historical record is protected and accessible for the future. It's a legacy worth preserving and understanding.
A powerful reminder that history isn't just about the past, it's about understanding ourselves and where we might be going.